You do not wake in a hospital. You wake on a table that still smells of the last man who lay here. His blood dried into the wood beneath your back, the grain of it holding what the cloth never wiped away. There is no cure waiting for you, only a decision already made by a hand that has never once been washed. The room is warm from a fire, and the fire is not for comfort. Then the fire is heating the iron. You came here to be saved. You will learn that surviving the sickness was never the hard part. Surviving the healing is. Look around before it begins. The light is low and yellow. Lamp smoke, stale wine, old sweat hanging in the air, thick enough to chew. Tools hang from a nail on the wall. Saws, hooks, blades. None of them clean since the last body. Some of them still wearing it. A bowl on the floor waits to catch you. A sponge sleeps in a basin of gray water that has soaked a dozen wounds before yours. There are others waiting. There is always someone before you and someone after. A bench along the wall of people holding a jaw, a hand, a swollen side, listening to whatever happens to you through the thin door and deciding whether they are brave enough to stay. You can hear the last one still, somewhere in the back, making a low sound that rises and falls and does not stop. That sound is the only honest advertisement this place has, and everyone pretends not to hear it. The man who will open you is not a doctor. The doctors are elsewhere, in gowns, reading the stars, arguing about your urine in a warm room they will never leave. This man is a barber. He shaves faces in the morning and cuts them in the afternoon. He pulls teeth. He lets blood. He inherited the razor from his father, who inherited it from his. And the knowledge came down the same way, hand to hand, blood to blood, never once through a book. Understand why it is his hand on you, and not a physician's. The physician thinks himself a scholar. He does not touch blood. Blood is beneath him, a craftsman's mess. And cutting is labor, and labor is for men with rough hands. So the whole bloody half of medicine was pushed down onto the barbers, the men already holding blades, and a wall was built between the one who thinks and the one who cuts, and you are lying under the one who cuts. They believe your body is 4 liquids in a balance: blood, phlegm, and 2 colors of bile, black and yellow. Sickness is one of them grown too loud, and healing is draining the loud one back down. That is why they bleed you, cup you, blister you, purge you from both ends. That is the science in the room. Everything the barber does, he does inside that belief, and the belief is wrong, and no one alive will know how wrong for 400 more years. You have a stone in you, or a rod in your leg, or an arrow the archer left behind, or a swelling that has gone from firm to hot to unbearable. You have waited too long because waiting was free, and this is not. Now the choice is only between the table and the grave, and the table is closer. Count with me. Count the ways this room will try to kill you, from the ones you cannot see to the one you will beg for. The first level is the one you would never notice. The dirt that does not announce itself, the hands. Nobody in this room believes in what lives on skin too small to see. The idea does not exist, so the barber does not wash. He wipes his knife on his apron, the same apron stiff and dark from a season of other men, and he calls it clean because it looks the way a working apron should look. His fingers go into your wound the way they went into the last one, carrying with them everything the last one left behind. The water in the basin is not changed. Why would it be? The sponge is the same sponge, and between patients it does not dry. It waits, warm and damp and full. That sponge is a garden. It holds the fever of every man it has touched, and now it comes down onto you, gentle, almost kind, pressing all of them into the raw, open middle of you. The instruments share the same memory. The blade that drains your abscess drained one yesterday. The probe that searches for your arrowhead searched another chest this morning. Nothing passes through flame. Nothing passes through anything, because there is nothing to pass it through in a world that does not know what it is fighting. And here is the part that turns your stomach the most. When the wound swells and fills and weeps a thick yellow, they smile. They call it laudable pus, good pus, a sign the body is throwing out its poison. So they encourage it. They pack the wound to keep it open. They want it to run. And every day they invite back in the very thing that is killing you, because they have named it healing. And what they pack you with when the cutting is done is its own quiet horror. Moss pulled from a bog, cobwebs gathered from the corner, wool, lint, cloth torn from something that dressed another wound first. Sometimes worse, the dung of an animal spread warm onto broken skin, because an old book swore by it. Every dressing is a door left open, and the barber closes the visible one and leaves the small ones wide, and calls the whole thing bound and clean. You will not feel any of this level. That is what makes it the worst one. The thing that kills most men on this table is not the knife. It is the days after, arriving silent, dressed as recovery. It comes in through the moss and the sponge and the fingernails, and it moves at the speed of trust. And by the time anyone sees it, it is already inside the walls of you. If you want the past like this, stripped of the clean bed and the kind lie they added later to make it easier to sell, then stay with this channel. Subscribe and walk the rest of it with me. There is far more filth where this came from, and none of it was ever meant to be comfortable. The second level you will feel. This is the pain, and the things they give you against it that are almost as dangerous as the pain itself. There is no clean sleep to fall into here. No needle, no mask, no counting backward into nothing. What they have is a cup, and the cup is a gamble. Wine first, all they can pour, until the room tilts and your tongue goes heavy. Then the real weapon's opium, if there is any. Henbane, mandrake root, the plant that screams when you pull it, they say. And the dwale, the drink they call it, the sleeping draught mixed by memory and hope in no measure anyone can trust. Think about what goes into that cup. The bile of a boar. Was hemlock, the poison that killed philosophers. The juice of the henbane, and the lettuce gone wild, and the poppy, vinegar to hold it. Each of these on its own can stop a heart, and they are stirred together by a man who cannot read a scale, measured by a pinch and a memory, and whatever worked last winter on someone built differently than you. It is not medicine, it is a spell made of poisons, and the hope is only that the poisons cancel enough of each other to leave you dulled instead of dead. Too little and you are awake for all of it, awake and held down and screaming into a rag. Too much, and you do not wake at all, and the barber shrugs, because the line between the dose that dulls a man and the dose that stops his heart is a line no one in this century can see. The same cup that spares you the knife can carry you past it entirely, out the far side, into a sleep with no morning. They soak a sponge in it and hold it over your face, the soporific sponge, and you breathe the fumes and pray the mixture was kind today. Some men go under smiling. Some men go under and their chest simply forgets to rise again. You will not know which you are until it is already decided. And even the kind version does not take the pain. It only moves you a little away from it, to where you can still feel every part but cannot make your body run. You hear the discussion above you. You feel the cloth tighten on your wrists. You understand, in a slowed and floating way, exactly what the sound of the blade being tested means, and you cannot do the one thing your whole animal self is screaming to do, which is leave. The drug does not spare you the operation. It only makes you a quieter witness to your own. If you think this is the bottom of it, the dirt you cannot see and the drink that might not let you wake, stay with me, because none of that is the table yet. The table is still coming, and after the table comes the thing that actually decides whether you live. And before it does, answer me one thing. Lying there told the only choice is the table or the grave. Which one do you take? Leave it in the comments. I read what you would have done. The third level is the knife itself, and the few brutal minutes that made barbers into legends of speed. Speed is the only mercy they have. There is nothing to keep you still, and nothing to keep you asleep for long. So the whole art is measured in seconds. A good surgeon is not the gentle one. The gentle one kills you slowly, in shock, in blood loss stretched too far. The good one is fast. The good one takes the leg in under a minute, from first cut to sealed stump, while 3 men lie across your body, and a 4th pins your head, and you are somewhere far away inside your own throat. They lash your wrists, they wedge something between your teeth so you do not bite through your tongue, and then the knife goes around the limb in one long pull, through skin and the soft red beneath it, and the saw finds the bone. Nothing about this is private. The assistants lean in close, breathing on the wound, passing tools hand to hand. One of them gripping the flap of skin they will fold back over the stump, another catching what runs into the bowl so the floor stays walkable. There may be an apprentice watching, learning the trade the only way it is taught, by the smell and the speed and the screaming, so that one day he will hold the razor and someone will lie where you lie now. You have never heard a sound like your own bone under a saw. It does not come through your ears. It comes up through your jaw, through the roots of your teeth, a dry grinding that your body knows is wrong in a way no pain has ever been wrong before. It is not loud. That is the horror of it. It is close, and it is patient, and it is inside you. And then, before the bleeding can empty you into the bowl, comes the fire. The iron that has been waiting in the flames this whole time, glowing, and they press it flat against the open stump. Your own flesh answers with a sound and a smoke you will smell for the rest of whatever life you have left. The cautery seals the vessels the only way they know how, by burning them shut, by cooking the raw edge of you until it stops. Or they pour it instead, boiling oil into the wound, because a battlefield taught them that gunpowder wounds were poisoned, and only fire could answer poison. So they boil the oil and they pour it in, and for centuries this was the cure that did more than the injury, until one exhausted surgeon ran out of oil in one long night of screaming men and reached for something gentler by accident, and noticed in the morning that the ones he had not burned were the ones still breathing. It took a lucky shortage to teach them that, and the leg is only the loudest of them. There were worse rooms to be carried into, quieter ones, where the cutting went deeper into places a man was never meant to be opened while awake. If the pain in you is a stone in the bladder, they cut for it. They call it cutting for the stone, and it is exactly that. You are folded double, knees pulled to your chest, 4 men holding you into a knot, and the barber goes in below, through the soft skin between your legs, with a blade and a hooked instrument, feeling blind for a rock the size of an egg, inside a place he cannot see. There is no map. There is only his finger inside you and his knife following it, and the stone must come out through a hole cut for it. And half the men who feel that knife do not rise from the stool. The ones who live often never hold their water again, leaking for the rest of their days, and they count themselves the lucky ones. If the trouble is in your skull, a blow, a pressure, a fracture pressing on the thing you think with, they open the head. They scrape and bore a hole through the bone with a spinning drill turned by hand, a slow grinding circle, closer and closer to the soft gray underneath. And the only thing between healing and killing you is how well a man with no picture of a brain guesses when to stop turning. Some woke clearer, some never woke as themselves again. If the fog is in your eye, the cataract, they do not remove it, they push it. A needle goes into the white of your open eye, held still by hands not your own, and they shove the clouded lens down out of the way, down into the dark of the eyeball, so light can pass again around it. For one bright, terrible day you see. Then the eye clouds with its own outrage, and many go blind for good, staring at a needle they will never forget. The men who do this are not cruel. That is the strange weight of it. The barber holding the iron would tell you he is saving you, and by the standards of his world he is. He has no other tools. He was handed a razor and a set of rules older than his grandfather and told, "This is how you keep a man alive." And he does it with the steady hands of someone who has done it 100 times and buried most of them. The last level is the one that arrives after you think you have won. After the knife is gone, after the fire has cooled, after they carry you off the table alive and you dare to believe you made it. This is the level that kills more men than the blade ever did. The first day you are weak but warm. The second day the wound aches, which they tell you is normal, which it is. The third day is when it decides. On the third day, the skin around the stump goes tight and shiny and red, and the ache becomes a heat, and the heat becomes a smell. You will know the smell before anyone says the word. It is sweet. That is the cruelty of it. That dying flesh does not smell foul at first. It smells almost sweet, and under the sweetness something older and worse. That is the gangrene. That is the wound they kept open, the pus they called laudable, the sponge and the hands and the water. All of it collecting now into a fever that climbs each night and does not fully break each morning. The fever does not come alone. It brings the shaking first, the deep cold that no fire touches, your teeth going while your skin burns. Then the thirst, the wandering, the hours where you speak to people who are not there and answer questions no one asked. Someone sits with you, a wife, a mother, a stranger paid a coin, wiping your face with the same cloth again and again, watching the wound the way you watch a fire you are not sure is out. They do not know what to do because there is nothing to do. There was never a medicine for this. There was only waiting to see which way your body would fall. If you are still here, if you can already smell that third day, do one small thing. Leave a like on this video. It is how the past without its mask reaches the next person, instead of the clean version everyone already believes. And the answer to gangrene is the table again. Higher this time. If the foot rotted, they take the leg below the knee. If that rots, they take it above. Each time the barber cuts into a body already weaker, already emptier, and each time your odds fall, because you have less blood to lose and less strength to burn, and the same dirty room waiting to fill the new wound with everything that filled the old one. Most who reach this level do not come back from it. The fever wins in the dark, quietly, on a straw mat, days after the dramatic part is over and everyone has stopped watching. No one writes it down. The barber remembers you as a leg he took cleanly, a good fast job, and cannot understand why the good fast ones still die, because he cannot see the thing that kills them. And yet, some live. That is the part the grave forgets to mention. Some bodies are young enough and strong enough to win the war going on inside them, to wall off the rot, to fight the invisible thing to a standstill, with nothing but their own blood. Some men walk out of that room on one leg and live 40 more years and tell the story by a fire while their grandchildren stare. Survival here is not skill and not medicine. It is a coin, weighted against you, that sometimes lands your way. That is what surgery was, not a treatment, a wager. You did not come to be cured, you came to gamble, and the house was the fever and the dirt and the drink and the fire. And the house almost always won, and everyone agreed to call it healing, because the only other word was surrender. So when you imagine the past, do not imagine the clean white bed. Imagine the table that still smells of the last man. Imagine the hand that will not wash, the pus they welcomed, the iron in the fire, the sweet third day. Imagine surviving the sickness only to meet the cure, and understanding, too late, that the cure was the more honest killer of the two. And the ones who lived did not remember it the way you would think. They did not remember the theory or the four humors or the clever name the physician gave their disease. They remembered the smell, the tallow and the burnt flesh, and the sweet rot of the third day. They remembered the grain of the wood against their back, and the sound in their jaw, and the exact weight of a stranger lying across their chest. The body keeps what the mind tries to bury, and it keeps it in the nose. And 40 years later, a certain smell by a fire would take an old man straight back to the table without warning. That was the price of the age, not that people did not care, They cared enormously. They held each other down and wept and prayed and paid what little they had. It is that caring was not enough, because caring without knowing is just a warm hand on a wound that is already lost. The whole century loved its sick and buried them anyway, over and over, and never once understood that the enemy was riding in on the very hands trying to save them. The sickness at least never pretended to love you. The healing did, and that was always the filthiest thing in the room. We go back again next time, into another room the history's left out, another comfortable story with the floor pulled up. If you mean to be there when we do, you already know how to make sure of it.